Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain, mindfulness. And on this afternoon's program, we're going to talk about another gentleman who lost a lot of money in an elaborate investment scam. Now, this was put out by Moneywise, and the story was written by Maurie Backman. And his title is Florida Man, 60, says he lost $1.6 million in an elaborate investment scam fronted by a woman he had known for years. So let's go through this. These days, real estate scams are all over the place, and the elderly are really being targeted. The example is Jose Luis Fernandez of Sunny Isle Beach, Florida, who invested money with E.B. Del Carmen of Realty Golden Group. He wasn't worried because he knew this lady since 2012. But authorities say that Ms. Carmen wound up stealing more than $1.6 million from him through an elaborate real estate fraud scheme. And now his life will never be the same again. He says, "I lost everything," he told WPLG Local 10 News, the pain evident in his voice. Fernandez says he trusted Ms. Carmen to invest his money in his 6 foreclosure properties valued at around $842,000. He gave her full access to his business bank account at Truist Bank so she could facilitate those transactions on his behalf. She gave Fernandez documentation in support of the various sales, but it was all fake, the police said. She never bought any of the properties, as she said she did. Fernandez became suspicious when he wanted his money, and Ms. Carmen kept making excuses about why it wasn't available. Now he calls his situation very complicated. Members of the Sunny Isle Beach Police Department arrested Ms. Carmen, who faces charges of organized fraud and grand theft, says Local 10 News. And there's a concern that she may have defrauded other investors other than Fernandez. People with knowledge of her real estate fraud or related fraud are encouraged to report it anonymously at 305-401-8477. Real estate scams are a real ongoing problem. In 2024, there were 9,359 real estate fraud complaints filed, according to the FBI's Internet Crime Report. All told, consumers lost more than $173 million to real estate fraud. And it's always the older people who are most likely to lose to real estate scams. In 2024, for example, people ages 50 to 59 lost $22,466.504 to real estate fraud, compared to $6,623,054 among people in their 30s, and $9,331,733,000 among people in their 40s. But people ages 60s and over reported 1,765 real estate crimes last year, totaling an astounding amount of 76,324. I'm getting my numbers wrong. 76,324,236 in losses. That's a lot of money. Because so many people live or retired in Florida, it's not surprising that the state ranks among those with the most fraud complaints. In 2024, Florida came in third in that category, followed only by California and Texas. It's also third in terms of total financial losses. A big reason older people may be likely to fall victim to real estate fraud is that they have more assets than the younger generation. And as the FBI states about scams in general, quote, seniors are often targeted because they tend to be trusting and polite. They usually have financial savings, own a home, and have good credit, all of which makes them attractive to the scammers. In the context of real estate, the problem then is not difficult to create documents that look legitimate. Scammers can download public records and duplicate or manipulate them in a way that seems official. Plus, it's just not that difficult to pull off a really good real estate scam, even when the victim is someone younger and relatively tech savvy. All a criminal needs is to search for listings, pretend to be the agent in charge, and then forge some sale documents and takes people's monies. It's easy enough to take a look at the public records and get this information. Or if I've been told for $50, you can go over to the dark web and get everything you need. However, there are ways to protect yourself, remain vigilant, and potentially avoid this type of scam. First of all, be wary of properties that seem too much of a bargain. Do your research and find that the average home price in your area for a 3-bedroom is $400,000, and a similarly sized home being sold for $200,000 should raise a red flag. And be careful with off-market properties. If a given home isn't listed on the MLS, you may want to stay away. It's also important to verify credentials of anyone who tries to sell you a home. Before you agree to that transaction, get references from the real estate agent involved and check up on their license to make sure they are valid. It is possible for someone to have a valid license and still engage in fraud, but that is an extra layer of protection, which means the fraudster has more to lose. Finally, always read your paperwork thoroughly and dig up all the necessary property details. Inspect the deed and title of the property and review your contract carefully. Your best bet would be to hire a real estate attorney who's not only able to review your contract, but help with their expertise to due diligence so you get an extra peace of mind. And if somebody comes along and demands it immediately, then don't do it at all. So I want to just thank you for joining us this morning on Scam DamNation with real estate fraud. And also be careful with your acquaintances. You don't know whether they need some extra money for that month because they gambled it all away last month. This program is brought to you by Conscious Research Solutions. Check us out at passionateworldtalkradio.com/research made simple blog. It will discuss all the pain points. And if you're still interested about research, whether with help or doing it on your own, contact us for a free 15-minute consult. And if you want to help keep our station, PWTRN, on the air, go over to passionateworldtalkradio.com/donation, where you always get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you to a piece of toilet paper. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, enjoy the rest of your week.